Hi, I'm Penny Schnarrs, and I am the Director of Community Relations and Strategy at the AAMC, and I've been back for 2.5 years or so, plus minus. I focus on our AAMC Virtual Community Network and helping the 30 plus internal staff with their communities and making sure that all of our members have what they need to connect.
Well, welcome to the show, Penny. Thank you so very much for joining this episode of Ask an Expert. I know we've been wanting to talk to you for some time. So Ask an Expert is our version of getting to interview and talk to our AAMC colleagues where we gather questions around the community for you. So let's kick it off. Take us on the journey of what brought you back to AAMC and your work in community relations.
Sure. So my whole career has really been centered around working in higher ed or health-related nonprofit, and it really focused a lot in communications, alumni relations, fundraising. And what I realized eventually at the center of all of that was really about relationship building. And really at the center, it was about building community and connection. And that was really important to me at the end of the day.
Awesome. Well, on your doing some research on your LinkedIn profile, you refer to yourself as a community builder, connecting others to create positive and impactful change. Give us some insight to what that means and why it's so important to you.
Yeah, I kick that right into that next question. So for a really long time, I was really literal, right? I know that for work to be important to me, I need to see the impact of what's happening. But it was really, I was really frustrated because I didn't know what my actual purpose or my why was. I kept tying it to a title or trying to. And if you've ever heard of Simon Sinek, great guy, really smart. He didn't come up with the concept, but he cashed in on it. And he wrote this amazing book called Start With Why. And he really talks about the concept of not what you do, but why you do it and what gets you out of bed in the morning, and connecting that kind of passion with your values and tying it sort of to the values of where you work and how that why, and then kind of starting from the inside out. And that really was a profound shift in how I looked at things, and realizing that there was that sort of connection in everything I did, that that relationship building, that connecting to others. I have that affinity, and I would say you and I have that in common, Aaron, right? Bringing people together and really want to build that sense of community, and not for nothing, but really trying to create that positive change and creating that impact and seeing that impact play out. And that was really important to me, and sharing that with others, being able to have others be able to create that impact as well and have them see it play out.
Awesome. Well, that kind of leads into my next question, just with respect to your role here at AAMC and with all of those things as a community builder. Can you just tell us more about what you do as a director of community relations and strategy?
Sure. I got really excited when I saw this position open. And so as I mentioned, right, it takes a village. I am just one piece of a much larger puzzle, right? But I feel really honored that I got to come back and be a part of this work. And the Virtual Communities Network, as I mentioned, is it's we've been working really hard to grow this space. And when I got here, they were really in pilot mode, and we had about 700 people in the space. And
Hmm.
now we've got almost 7,000.
Wow.
And, we've got almost 50 sub communities, and we've got
Mm.
almost 40 people here at the organization who manage their own sub community, right? And it varies, some of them are closed spaces with cohorts, right, for learning communities or work groups. And some of them are open topic based communities, right? Like disability inclusion or curriculum, um, institutional advancement, something near and dear to my heart. And it's really amazing to be a part of something um, that can be this accessible and inclusive space
Mm.
that we can offer to our members, right? And that there's not a limit, and that we can think outside of the box.
Mm.
And you think about, right, like there's so much opportunity there, right? Like, so it's a space for our members. And when you think about, you can come and connect with each other. There's
Mm.
a member directory where
Mm.
they can connect with each other. There are resource bundles, right? There are volunteer listings. We are launching a mentor match.
Mm.
Um, they can ask questions. They can crowdsource. We want to have this psychologically safe space where they can brag about the amazing work that they do, where they
Mm.
can talk about the stuff that's really frustrating them, and talk to their peers. It's
Mm.
sort of our LinkedIn space without the algorithms, right? We don't
Mm. Mhm.
sell the information.
Mm.
We work really hard to keep the data safe, and we do it for the members, right?
Mm.
There's no like other like intention. It
Right.
is theirs, right? We want to
Right.
empower them to make it
Mm.
their own. And that, as someone who again really believes in that power of connection,
Mm.
and giving our volunteers, our people something back, that gets me out of bed in the morning, right? Like that feels really
Wow.
powerful.
That's awesome. Well, you kind of you kind of answered my next question. So I do have to ask you, based on what you said when you first started, the membership was about 700. It's now about 7,000. That's an amazing increase. Can you just talk about the value of having a diverse audience within the community and the importance of how that helps to just expound messages?
Listen, we barely just scratched the surface. Like academic medicine is so large, right? Like
Mm.
when you think about the AAMC, right? And I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm going to cheat and say the numbers, but our institutions represent 171, right? That's
Mm.
171 medical schools. And then you
Mm.
think about the 400 plus teaching hospitals. And then you
Right.
think about the 70 plus academic societies. Then you put in the faculty, which is
Mm.
right, like almost 200,000 people. Then you put in the staff, then you put
Mm.
in the residents, then you put in
Mm.
the med students. And now we're talking about millions of people. Then you
Mm.
think about the people who are in the community, right? Like advisors
Mm.
and career counselors. And you think about pathway programs, right? People who aren't even in medical school yet, like the K through 12 people. And then you think about
Mm.
patients, and you think about these people in the broad sense of community, right? Who touch on the world of academic medicine, and thinking about people all around the world who don't even or wouldn't normally get to talk to each other, interact with one another. And the way that a virtual community allows them to come together and interact in a way that they could never do that.
Mm.
And that to me is like, yes, right?
Hmm.
This allows, when we talk about the idea of DEI and B, right? Like you
Hmm.
belonging to me is a word that we underutilize because we can talk all day about inclusion,
Hmm.
diversity, and equity, but if we don't make people feel like they belong and have that sense of psychological safety and
Sure.
allow them to feel heard and understood, um, then what are we doing it all for, right? And I
Right.
think that that's the great thing about this space. You don't just have to be affiliated with a member institution. If your values align with wanting to help lead and serve the trajectory of academic medicine, if you have a connection, if you care about that, then you have a place at the table, right? Your voice matters.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we talk a lot about, I talk a lot about and think a lot about wicked problems, right? Wicked problems are like really complex, interconnected, and they don't have one way to solve them, and they're not solved because
Mm-hmm.
they are so complex. And when you think about medicine, when you think about education, when you,
Yeah.
right? And the only way to really solve these complex, wicked problems is when you do bring the right voices to the table. And to me, this is an opportunity to really start those courageous conversations and bring the right people together to have those courageous conversations in a safe space, no matter where you are in the world, no matter where you are in the hierarchy, and
Mm.
to really respect, um, and feel safe to have those conversations and, um, not not turn it into where we are in social media, right?
Sure. Sure.
And so I think that that's where these types of communities can really, um, still make a difference and really allow for an opportunity that to not veer into that kind of
Mm.
dark space that we've gotten to in social media. That's my
Sure.
hope.
No, it sounds a lot like the way the internet was when it first kind of
Yeah.
was introduced, when folks had a little more, I guess you could just say, couth and respect with respect to sharing ideas and
Right.
conversations and things like that. So it's almost brought it back to its original sense,
Right.
but within the community, and being able, like you said, to feel safe, share your opinions, share your feedback, share thoughts, ask questions, um, all of those sorts of things. So just that's just an amazing opportunity, especially with those, within the healthcare field, to just have that safe space, especially with all of the things that, like you said, are going on socially that are seemingly more out in front than were before,
Yeah.
and just giving those within the area an opportunity to just speak to each other, and also gain insight as to challenges faced, how to overcome things like that. So that's really, really fantastic. I appreciate all of that. um, on a recent episode of our podcast, Beyond the White Coat with David, we discussed mental health. And our own Dr. David Scorton, along with one of our guests, Dr. Justin Bullock, both shared their personal experiences as the concept of community continued to come up. The idea of connecting to others, reaching out to peers, professionals, professors, etc. Um, and those were very, very prominent topics. Talk to me about the ideology of just that growing sense of community, and how we can get back to that. I feel like as a society we've kind of lost that sense of community, neighborhoods, things like that. What in that ideology, what are your thoughts
Listen, I mean, COVID, I think, really showed us that,
about?
this idea that loneliness is an epidemic, right? And that, um, that effect on mental wellness. And I think also we've sort of lost sight that wellness is, there's a holistic piece, like there's more to wellness than just physical wellness, and mental wellness is one, and physical wellness, right? And then there's financial wellness, there's spiritual wellness, right? There, depending on who you're talking to, there's like 6 or 8 pieces, and they all need to be addressed, right? To really feel balanced and truly well. I have always been a big proponent of building a sense of community, right? I think that it's not a secret that we need to feel a part of something, like no man is an island. I think that for some reason, Western society in particular has tried to kind of break down that idea. But I think all we've done is continued to prove that that is not the case. And I think that community can look different. I think that you can build community in a virtual sense. I think that a physical hug will always make your actual, right? Like it has an impact on like something that is virtual, but I believe that you can absolutely build community in a virtual space. And I think that in the world in which we are existing right now, it is important to make the time. It is a necessity, an absolute necessity. And I think it's very easy to say it's a nice to have, but that's not the case. We have to. In a world where we are hybrid or remote, or just in this world of technology. And I don't think that that means doom scrolling or mindless scrolling. It is having these types of moments where I can see your face, or we're talking about something that is important to us on a discussion thread, and having moments of deep conversation, not just mindless scrolling. It needs to be an actual back and forth, like to have our minds actually engaged and connected, right? And I think that that's the piece that keeps falling off, right? The actual intentional conversing and actual deeper connection. We keep saying, well, I'm in a group where I like put hate conversations in, like I tell celebrities that they're ugly or whatever. Right? And that's the piece that people aren't understanding, right? Like we need to put more good connection and intention into that. And I think it's absolutely necessary.
No, I agree. And that perfectly kind of leads into my next question. A lot of these, I really appreciate the depth and the breadth with you're providing your feedback and answers, because it's so insightful just with respect to how things have grown, how you see things, what still needs to happen. And within that, what, if any, connection between community, or do you see between community and success? I think a lot of times, like you said, no man is an island. And we oftentimes forget that we have help sometimes. So just what do you see as the connection between community and success?
It's really funny because when I hear the word success, I sometimes feel it's a double-edged sword, right? Because we kind of hear success and we kind of equate the opposite of that as failure, like very black and white. And so I kind of pump the brakes a little when I hear that word. But if we can really hear that word as it's an accomplishment of, like, the actual definition, an accomplishment of an aim or purpose, which goes right back to my why, right? Like finding your why, your purpose, and working towards it. I think that literally you need community for it.
Mm.
And the idea of connection and what community brings to it, right? And community, communities come together for different reasons, right? You can be a community of geography. You can be a community of practice, of action, of interest.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, all of them, you're stronger and better because of community.
Mm.
And it's really interesting because I'm going to use my wife as an example. I think a lot, I use her as my sort of litmus test because she's a fellowship director. And I think about her journey with the AAMC. I think about her journey as a human, as an introvert, as someone who I think often thinks she can be an island or thinks that she should be an island because, right, often people think they don't want to be a bother to others, right? And I think about the amount of people who either suffer in silence or come in and out of things like on a, in and out of a journey throughout the AAMC, throughout their lifetime in different places, right? As a resident medical student and then later in life, and thinking about these people who, right, are very specialized and think that, they only come into contact with their people, their specialty, and thinking about the amount of people they'll never meet, the community they'll never have the opportunity to connect with because they either think it's not worth the time or they would be a burden to ask a question, or all of those messages they have in their head that just aren't true, right? That we need to get over because community is so much more important than that. We're stronger, right? The sum of our parts is stronger. And I just wish that we can get to that, right? That we can all take a moment and realize that asking for help, sharing our ideas, and then paying that forward to help someone else, like that is the grand cycle of life. And that's what makes things really beautiful and better.
Indeed. Well, thank you for that. And I wish you continued success in building this community. And with that, for those who are interested, for those who might be watching you for the first time and hearing about this and say, hey, I'm a part of this, this large community. How can I get involved within the virtual community space at AAMC? So can you just talk about that process, what a person might need to do, and, how, if they're interested in becoming a part of this grand community, how can they do that?
What took you so long? No. Yes, it's very easy. It's free. It takes a few minutes. They can go to communities.aamc.org. We do. It will take a day or two to process because we want to protect everyone who is in the community. We do vet each person so that we know no one's spamming. There's no robots coming in. And then once we do that, you are off and running. You can check out any of the open communities, join as many as you like. It's your space, so you can reach out to me in the community and say, hey, I don't see a community on student affairs. Can we stand one up? And I will work with you to do so. You can say, hey, why isn't there a resource bundle on XYZ? And I will happily work with you to curate that. But it's your space. Please humble brag. Please share all the great things that you're doing. It's not just about AAMC content. It's about
Mm.
the content that you think is helpful for your peers. Um, and it's your space. So make it what you want, but please pay it forward, and don't just ask, answer your peers, so that you can help pay that cycle forward.
Okay, wonderful. Wrapping up, my last question for you, just in looking ahead. I know there's a lot of work that you've done, a lot of work that you're currently doing, a lot of work still to be done
Yes.
ahead. Kind of that now, near, far concept that we talk about so much internally. What are your hopes and what are your goals for the future of AAMC's virtual community?
So the now is to keep adding enhancements. Our mentor match, we are going to launch in the
Mm-hmm.
next few weeks. So that means people can designate if they're willing to be a mentor or mentee, and they can search for each other. Um, and just keep bringing people in. And we're having a whole string of topic-based meetups like this. The next one's going to run the next over in February and March, over the topic of poverty and academic medicine. So we'll continue to have topic-based just discussions so people can meet each other in the communities. The near is to keep those going and figuring out and hearing from our community members, to continue to grow our champions group. We've got about 60 members in that
Okay.
group, who are modeling the behavior and helping to be the voices of people in the community, to continue to stand up those topic-based communities, and grow those spaces, and to bring our lurkers. Lurkers are people too, people who just look, but to really bring our lurkers into the conversations, because again, it's our member space.
Mm-hmm.
I can answer, I can help connect people, but I want them to feel empowered to do that, right? Like, no one cares that Penny Schnarrs is in there posting. Like, I want them to feel empowered to do that, and to continue to just grow the space, make sure it's functioning, and to get the word out, and bring more people, right? Members of our member institutions, but also of the larger community. And then the far, I'm an idealist, but I have hope that we can solve this wicked problem and get the right voices at the table and have these courageous conversations and really have these deep, meaningful talks, and really start to move the dial. That's my real hope. And it won't be easy. It won't be solved overnight, but I think that this is a tool that could get us closer. And I hope that we could get there.
Well, with you driving the ship, I know they are in good hands. So I thank you so very much, Penny, for your time. I know you have an extremely busy schedule, so thank you so much for fitting us in. Penny Schnarrs, the Director of Community Relations and Strategy here at AAMC and the leader of our virtual community space. Thank you for your time, your story, your expertise. We truly appreciate you. And for those watching, if you are a part of our community and have a question for our next expert, please be sure to follow us at AAMC Today on X, formerly known as Twitter or Instagram. And you can also join our community, as Penny said, at communities.aamc.org. And we will see you next time on the next episode of Ask an Expert.